Thank you for joining us for another episode of Help Nobody Told Me. We're so excited today. This podcast is really what we are all about. It's about life transitions that nobody prepares you for.
That is so true. That is so true. Why don't you tell everybody who you are?
I'm Jasmine Shapiro. I'm a realtor in the North Shore of Chicago with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And my co-host is Mindy Leonard, and Mindy is with Super Organized Spaces, and she is the most unbelievable home organizer. We use her all the time.
Thank you. Love working with you here and with your clients. Okay, and we have a really special guest today. Susan Stancliff is here. And like Jasmine was saying, you are really living through what so many people our age are living through. And I want to share a little bit about your story and your background with our viewers, our listeners. You grew up in a small town of Oklahoma called Okmulgee. Is that how you?
Okmulgee.
Okmulgee.
You were very close.
I was
though.
close.
That was very good.
You
get points for that.
Okay,
definitely.
good. So it's outside of Tulsa.
Uh-huh.
You graduated from Oklahoma State University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Mm-hmm. You worked for 12 years in Supervision and Regulation for the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. And then that's where you met your husband when you were living there, Jason, and you guys married in 2000. In 2003, you traveled to China, and that's where you adopted Meghan. Mm-hmm. Then you became a stay-at-home mom, managing your time, her time, your volunteer work. Before moving to the Chicago suburbs in 2008, she called Marietta, Georgia, home. Susan's recent years have been marked by change and loss. In April of 21, Jason was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Yes.
1 month later, Meghan graduated from high school. 3 months after that, Meghan left for college. Then your mom passed away in 2022. Mm-hmm. And then your husband passed away in 2023 at 52 years old.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you currently have a dad who's 94 and lives in Florida.
Yes.
Living independently, and now you're managing the finances and the daily life as much as you can from here. I mean, Susan, this is so much, and for anybody to deal with, and you've been through so much, and how do you, I guess I just kind of want to start by hearing your take on everything that I just said. Where is your head on a daily basis?
You know, it's in different places on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a minute-by-minute basis. I think you find this power within to just keep moving when it's all happening. When Jason got diagnosed, it was horrible. I was also preparing to send my child away to college. That's empty nester, right?
Huge transition.
And then I'm taking my husband to chemo and appointments, and he's continuing to work up until literally a week before he passed away, and didn't want anybody at his office really to know that he was sick, and it was during kind of that COVID time or after COVID time too, so that was kind of doable. He worked from home quite a bit, but navigating those changes. And then I had a really fabulous relationship with my mother. We were extremely close. We talked every day on the phone. And she had lived a full life, and she was in her late 80s. And so I knew, you know something's going to happen, but even if you know it's going to happen, you're not prepared for it.
Sure.
And so when she passed, it was very, very hard on me. I went to the funeral, and my husband couldn't make it with me because he didn't feel well enough to travel. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of tough. My daughter met me there and my dad, and it was just the three of us. And then Jason passed in February of 2023. So it will actually be 3 years coming up next month, which sometimes it feels like it just happened. And then other times I'm just like amazed, I guess, at how much has happened since then. So it's been a difficult road. And now my dad, even as I was telling you guys coming in here, just getting a call from one of his caregivers and telling me that he's trying to go out to the garage to get into something, and he has to use a wheelchair, so there's no way he can get into the garage. And now he wants to walk outside and try to check on a camera on the outside of the house, and she's like, he's going to fall. And so I'm managing that on the phone on the way here, telling him, please don't go outside. Right. I can't be coming to Florida right now. I can't, it's just, it's always something. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride. Right. So.
Well, you've had to deal with a lot of emotions and a lot of change and transition.
Yes.
And this is exactly what our podcast is about. And, there's other people that are going through this, and it's, I think, helpful to know they're not alone.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've met other people that have gone through similar experiences as you.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here and sharing that with us.
Certainly.
I just wanted to ask you, so was your mom and dad, were they living in Florida when your mother passed?
They were.
Okay,
Originally,
so not in Oklahoma.
I'm from Oklahoma
Okay.
originally. And then probably about, now it's probably been about 15 years or so ago, they decided to move to Florida full time.
Okay.
And living independently. My mother got ill. She had in the house care for her, and then eventually she went into hospice in the house and passed. My dad wanted to stay in the house, even though he's from Oklahoma. He's an oil and gas guy, loves Oklahoma, doesn't really love Florida, right?
Interesting.
Would go back, but a lot of his friends are not there anymore.
Right.
And so he's like, I want to stay in this house because this is where your mom was. And so
does he have a community there?
He has a little bit. It gets tough because so many of your friends start passing.
Yes.
But there's one gentleman in particular that I do want to give a shout out to, Tom. And Tom is in his 60s and retired pharmacist. That he and his wife live across the street from my dad, and he has taken him under his wing. Aww. And I am so forever grateful. I can't even, he takes him to the doctor's appointments. He takes him to the pharmacy. He takes him to get groceries. He just gets him out. And so that's been a blessing. And then also recently we talked about getting rid of Dad's car, which was a very big, vote of contention. He did not want to get rid of his vehicle. Because he feels like he's giving up, his freedom.
Sure, of course.
And that's understandable. So we kind of compromised, and now he has an aide that drives. One of his aides that drives is there on the weekend, so she'll take him out to lunch, and she'll take him to, the park, or, drive by the beach or whatever, just so he gets outside of his four walls, right?
But he doesn't have time to drive anymore.
No, thank God. Thank God, no.
Well,
but he was trying, and the aide was like, he's running through red lights, and I'm like, okay, this is time that we have to do something about it. You know?
I think so many people in your shoes have to have that conversation with a parent, and I know just from people I've spoken with, that is always one of the hardest conversations. Mm-hmm. And when you had it, was that you saying that to him? Did you talk to his medical team and have them approach it, or how did you handle that?
It was not easy. He is very feisty, very tough. And I think what helped me in this instance is that I had the friend, Tom, across the street. He also said, hey, Bob, and when it's coming from somebody other than your daughter, I think it's better received, right? And so he was like, Bob, you really don't need to be driving anymore. And, we can take you wherever you need to go. And then me following up with that saying, I think that seems like a good idea, but it's your decision. But, I think that could be a really good decision for you to make, to get rid of the car now. And trying to make it seem more like it's also his choice, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, so that's kind of how that goes. Right now we couldn't find the title, so we've had to get a new title from the state, and we're waiting on that, but then we should be able to sell the car. So that'll be one less worry of him trying to get in the car and driving.
Right.
Right.
So you mentioned a caregiver on the weekends. Does he have a caregiver during the week as well?
Yes, he has 24-hour care.
Okay.
So what happened is he would have caregivers during the day, not at night, after my mom passed. And then this past June, He proceeded to fall in the driveway, getting out of a car with someone there. He broke his shoulder, his hip, and his pelvis. He went to a rehab facility and absolutely hated every minute of it. But he got better, which is pretty amazing when you consider a break like multiple breaks like that at that age.
Right, at our age, it's hard to recover from. I can only imagine in your 90s.
Right.
100%. Three major
Right.
breaks, and
Right.
so he's back home and he's okay,
incredible.
but with the caveat that he has to have 24-hour care.
And did he recognize that?
And well, they told him he had to. He's like, I'll have it for now, but I don't necessarily need it,
Right.
forever. And it's like, you're going to need it forever.
Right.
But, you don't want to have that argument. So you just kind of go with it. And so he's ever since last June, he's had 24-hour care with him. And yeah, it's been a blessing. And it's the same people that were there for my mother as well.
Oh, that's
So
really
like one woman, we have Eliza from the Philippines. She has been with us for probably 8 years, and she's family. I mean, she calls me her sister, and I feel like she's family. She's always looking out for his best interest. So
Right.
That's great. I mean, we've talked caregiving a lot, and you have the support of caregivers who are with him 24 hours a day, right? But let's be honest, you're the number one caregiver here,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for a lot of years. And is that a role you ever saw yourself having, or how has that kind of helped in identify who you are now, midlife?
It's funny because I think in retrospect now that I can look back on it, I think I've always kind of been that kind of person, right? A
Right.
caregiver
A
kind of person,
nurturer,
nurturer, right? I think that comes kind of second nature to me. So, but would I have thought that when I was going into it? No, not necessarily. So, for instance, when I met my husband in, I believe it was 97, I knew that he had a genetic condition that could result in cancer. He had his colon cancer specifically, and he had his colon removed, his stomach removed, or part of his stomach removed, and then also several like desmoid or benign tumors removed due to this condition. So I knew that going in when I met him at 27, that he had all this at age 21, right?
Okay.
So I had a feel for that this is always going to be a continual chronic issue, and it was. And I went to doctor's appointments with him at UT Southwestern in Dallas. He had flex sigmoidoscopies, endoscopies, CT scans every 6 months, every 12 months, just depending. We eventually landed on the Cleveland Clinic, where we sought out the best doctors for his particular condition, and we were there for many years. Sorry, I'm getting a little off track there, but yeah.
No.
So
But that was part of, you knew going in.
But that
I
was
think is
part,
what
I
you're
guess, of the
saying.
caregiving thing.
Yes.
And then we adopted our daughter from China and brought her home, and everything was great. And then around age 5, and Jason had just moved here to take a job, and we were still in Atlanta trying to sell the house. I'm out to lunch one day with my daughter, and she has a seizure in my lap. And it's just like, what is happening?
Right.
And that started, she's had different health conditions as time has gone on. And we think that was probably heart related in nature. And she continues to be treated by doctors and what have you. So it's just that took on another role of not just being a mom, but now being a mom that is neurotic. and every time that she's playing a violin or she's doing something where she's standing up thinking, oh my God, please don't let her faint.
Right.
So, and then, oh my gosh, I've got to keep Jason's, organized. And he's quite capable of keeping himself organized, right? But as the wife, I was pretty pushy, it's that month. We've got to get, Cleveland on the books. We've got to get this going. So it's not that he wasn't capable of taking care of himself. I think just I felt that need that I was going to keep him going.
Right. It was innate in you. It's your personality.
It's my personality.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. And so, and then with my mom, same thing. I mean, we're so incredibly close. I was on a flight back and forth every time anything happened in Florida. I was going back and forth, it seemed like, for a while, almost every 2 weeks. And then she passed. And then my dad, he was okay for a while. And then, it's a roller coaster ride It just really is. So
when you're, I'm sorry, but
No,
when your mom got sick in Florida,
yes,
you were living here, right, in Chicago.
100%, yes.
How did you find the caregivers down there?
Well,
Did you go down there to
I
start doing the
went
process?
down there, and I guess that it worked out fairly easily for us. We were lucky in this respect. The rehab facility that she was at, which is the same rehab facility my father was also in this past June, the gentleman that ran that rehab facility had a very good friend who also ran an around-the-clock agency.
Okay.
And so he put us in contact with him. We interviewed him, and you know, it's not a perfect process. There have been caregivers that have come through that have been awful, that have showed up 2 hours late and said, well, I'm sorry, you know, I was shopping, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And then there have also been caregivers like Eliza, who is literally was not going to leave Clearwater in a Category 5 hurricane a couple years ago because she wouldn't leave my dad, and my dad wasn't going to leave. I mean, that's a kind of dedication that you just don't find that in people throughout every day. So
right, and
I love that you're recognizing that, because there's so much I don't know, negativity and things that happen in the caregiving, but you have the neighbor across the street, you have Eliza, I mean, you definitely have some silver linings, and I'm so happy that you see that, because I can imagine that kind of helps you along the way too.
Yeah.
When you hear that. When you were dealing with the caregivers who weren't showing up, you're in another state. So how are you hearing from your father? What's the logistics of managing that when you're so far away?
I'm hearing from my father. He's on the phone because he's still capable of doing that and yelling and saying, why isn't anybody here? And I'm on the phone with the agency, and I'm saying we need to get someone out there. And you know, so it's worked pretty well. Those instances have really have been few and far between. But there are those times, obviously, when things happen, and you know, one woman showed up and said, I'm sorry, I have church and I'm always going to be 2 hours late. And he's like, why, you know, then why did we put you in this slot, you know, in this time frame if it's not going to work for you? But the agency is generally very responsive, and we've been lucky in that respect. But it's hard. It's a hard job, and it's a hard job for caregivers, and the people that do it. It's a special. I think we were chatting about this, you know, earlier today. It takes a very special person to do that kind of work, and I applaud them for sure.
I do too, and I think that you touched on like just being here, and your father is in another state, which many listeners may experience as well. An agency is probably the best route, because, and I know. I was here, I'm here, my mother, when she was alive, we used an agency as well. And even though we were both in Chicago, there were people that didn't show up. And you could call the agency and say, look, where are they?
Right.
They report to the agency, you need to send someone else. It wasn't always immediate because they had to organize another person.
For sure.
But when you go private, it's who do you have then to lean on if that person gets sick or doesn't show up or has a family crisis. So the agency is probably a really good route, would you say?
I would say so. That at least from my experience, and I do know plenty of people that have done, you know, there's one particular person that took care of my mother for many, many years, and I think that's a phenomenal situation as well. But as you say, if there's not any backup, then you're kind of out of luck. And especially in a situation where I'm so far away, I'm a plane ride away, right? I can't just be there. I just can't show up and fill in for someone. So
that, I think caregiving is one of the major challenges that you have to deal with when you have a parent who's aging in another state, even within the state. But what are some other challenges that you are coming across? I mean, I would imagine just the logistics of doctor's appointments and medication and all of that, finances, paying bills, everything. Or have you taken all of those responsibilities on?
Eventually, yes. I mean, I don't want to say eventually. I have taken them on. He did not want to give me those things because he didn't want to give control. And I completely understand that. But since he has in the last year, it has been so much better because I know every bill that needs to be paid. I know where we're at on everything. My dad still has some interest in oil and gas industry, so I've learned a little bit about the oil and gas industry. I mean, I grew up around it, and that's what he did, but I never really had a need to know anything about it. Now I've had to learn about it, and so that I can manage that part of it. Things that I never thought I would be doing, right? And then little things that happen to, for instance, we had to have quite a few documents notarized while he was in rehab or while he was in the hospital or even while he's home. And to find out that there's notaries that will travel to those places is a fantastic thing. And maybe other people knew that. I did not. And it's a godsend. So that's a great thing. Another thing that we came across was when he was in rehab, he had an appointment in Tampa, and it's about 30 minutes away. He's in a wheelchair. He has multiple broken bones. The only way to get them there is a particular service. So they have like an ambulance type service that comes to the rehab or comes to your home, picks you up in the wheelchair, wheels you onto the van, takes you there, stays there with you, and then brings you back home. And so it's like you find out about different things that are available to you as you need them, right?
Lots of good services that are out there, but if help nobody told me.
Right.
That's the name of this podcast, right?
Right.
Help nobody told me. And so you were thrown into it in so many different aspects of your life, and now you're dealing with it now. What about power of attorney and all of that with your dad? Is that something you always had, or when did that? How did you?
Well, it's interesting because I did have it, but I think we needed to tidy some things up, and so we got all that done, and that was good. And so then I had the attorney's office send me the power of attorney. So then each time I wanted to change anything, I had to send the power of attorney over to whatever company it was. Say his car insurance is with USAA. I had to send over all the documentation to USAA, wait for them to get back with me, because they wouldn't even talk to me on the phone unless they had that information. And so that's kind of, it's a long process. It's a very long process. But now I've got everything taken care of. I'm on everything. I closed some accounts and put them in my name just to make it easier. Things like cable and I think utilities, maybe things like that. So,
in order for you to do that, what documentation did you have to show the cable company, for example, to switch it over?
I had to show them the power. Well, just switching it over. I was able to take it out of his name. With the power of attorney and put it into my name. So that was adequate for that. There were some things, though, that were still in my mother's name that he had never changed over. So for that, I needed my mom's death certificate.
Right.
And then my dad had to try to find those, right? So it's now I have a filing system, which you have helped me with tremendously.
Our home organizer.
Yeah, organizer, exactly. And with that, I have files set up for every single thing, and I can just go straight to it, and I can set up auto pay. Whereas that's another thing. A lot of people from my dad's generation don't want to pay. They want to pay. They want to write a check, or they don't want everything at one bank. That's another thing I found. My dad had a little bit in a lot of different banks. So 5 different banks. Wow. So I've closed 2 of them down, and I'm working on getting the others, to where we can consolidate things, because it just doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make sense to me, I should say. For him, the mindset is that, there were the bank runs, and there was the Depression, and there were these things, and you should have a little money everywhere, including probably underneath your, mattress pad, right? Or your mattress, right? So, so it's just been a steep learning curve. But I'm a pretty good researcher, and I think that has helped me, because I have a tendency to just go crazy on the internet and talking to people, and I never met a stranger, and so I ask a lot of questions.
Right, which is fabulous.
You use the term feisty to describe your father.
Yes.
Which I think it sounds to me like he's still pretty sharp, even in his 90s. It sounds like you are also very sharp and trying to find whatever resources you need to. You said you're a researcher. You've gone through quite a bit personally with your family as well as with your parents. What do you do to keep yourself positive? And you don't feel the negativity at all coming off of you. What do you do to help your emotional state so that you can be such a ray of sunshine to
Oh,
everybody.
Thank you. I think therapy, I retail and cognitive behavioral therapy, I think I'm all for both of those.
Well, and we love your shoes. We were commenting on your shoes.
Oh, thank you. But I have a really great set of friends, and I have great friends from my time in Oklahoma. I have great friends from Georgia and from Texas, and really wonderful friends here. And I'll bring this up just because it may resonate with someone, but when my husband passed, everybody was like, what can I do for you? And I was like, I want play dates with Susan. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I was like, I said, I need to keep busy. And I wasn't working, and so therefore I didn't want to sit at home and dwell. And so I made a conscious decision that life is short. I can choose to be happy or I can choose to be sad. And believe me, I've felt deep sadness, and I have grieved, and I continue to grieve, and will, I'm sure, off and on for many years. That's life. But on a day-to-day basis, I had people taking me to, they said, have you been to Book of Mormon? I'm like, no, let's go. And then we'd have dinner downtown. I had not even been to Lake Geneva, even though we'd lived here 17 years. So a friend of mine took me up there. We went up for the day. We had lunch. We took the boat out on the lake. And it was just like through these experiences, even coffee, people set up coffee with me or breakfast with me. And I was booked pretty much every day. And it was a good feeling. I kind of got myself a little exhausted. I kind of overdid. But it was also
a good exhaustion.
But it was
right?
a good exhaustion.
Yeah.
And then I found people that were already my dear friends, but then also people that were acquaintances that stepped forward when they found out that my husband had passed, and then became very dear, close friends now that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So I kind of look at it as,
It was your decision and your nature to let them in, because many people could push them away,
Right.
especially if they were just acquaintances. But it seems like you actually invited them in,
Yeah.
and it helped in your healing.
It did help in my healing. And I had a great support group also at Cancer Wellness Center. I can't say enough about them. They were amazing when I was going through the process. I did try some widow type groups when I first became a widow. That personally just was not for me. I guess I wanted to concentrate more on trying to be happy and moving forward and hopeful, and not to say that those organizations, they're great,
Right.
and they serve a purpose for some people, but for me personally, I felt like we were all going around the table telling each other our story of how our spouse or significant other had passed, and I felt like I was wallowing in sadness, and I just couldn't live in that space. So
I think it's wonderful how you identified what you needed, and then you shared that with your network.
Yeah.
And you said it's Playdate with Susan time, and they all stepped up. And it's interesting, anybody who goes through any sort of, well, it doesn't even have to be negative, it can be positive too, any sort of a milestone event in your
Right.
life, people step up. Then it can be surprises who steps up, and I'm glad that you've had positive experiences. I think you are, exactly what you were saying before, you're an inspiration, and I think for coming on and sharing your story with so many people are listening, and they're in your shoes, and I think you're making a difference in other people's lives, and that's really special. So thank you very much for coming on.
We have a little lightning round.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
lightning
don't
round.
overthink it.
Okay,
It's just
okay,
quickly.
okay.
What comes to mind?
All right.
Okay. So one small thing that brings you comfort on hard days.
A phone call, an hour, maybe 2 hours with one of my dear friends. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
A routine that helps you stay grounded.
I think I do. I do well with structure. So I kind of have my days mapped out. And I like games a lot. So I play Bunko, I play Mahjong, I play not very well, but I play. I play canasta. And then I also volunteer at an organization, Reading Power, that I am very passionate about. So having these things set up in my schedule every day, and also making time to meet with my friends every day for dinner or coffee or what have you, makes me feel like I have a fulfilling
I love that.
life.
Something people misunderstand about caregivers.
I'm not sure on that one, to be honest with you. That's a hard one. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
A place or activity that helps you get reset. Hit the reset button.
If I can't get to a beach, then it's going to be it's going to be Fort Sheridan. I love to take walks there, looking out on Lake Michigan. There's a place to sit. At the time, the water has always calmed me, and Fort Sheridan's my place.
I love that. In one word that describes where you are right now.
Goodness, hopeful, moving forward. It's all I can do.
Ray of sunshine right here.
Thank you, thank you. I mean,
She's the best.
it's not easy. I am dating someone. I've been dating for a little over a year. He's very special, very nice guy. Not by any means trying to replace my husband, just trying to find joy again.
Sure.
And knowing that is possible. But I'm hopeful and grateful. I'm grateful for the friends that I have had in my life that are no longer here. I'm grateful for the friends that I've made along the way and the friends that I will continue to make going forward.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on
Oh,
today.
thank you guys.
You
Thank
have
you so
been
much
such
for
an
having
inspiration,
me.
as
Yeah.
Mindy said, and
Yeah.
I really feel it from you.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
she is a ray of sunshine. I mean,
Oh,
you just kind of emanate. Is
Yes.
that the word?
Yes.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, positivity.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah. So,
Yep.
I can't wait to see where this life takes you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you to everybody for watching and being with us today. And join us next time for another episode of Help.
Nobody told me.